because we're going to hear now a follow-up theme. Amy is an analyst. She's been looking at this question of business uptake, especially in the manufacturing space. Okay. Everybody, help me welcome Amy.
Hello, everyone. I know some of you, and I'm pleased to see some new faces this year. For those of you that have never met me, my name is Amy Rowell, and as Ken kindly is going to put my updated can you hear it now? As he is about to put the updated presentation on there, I'll tell you a little bit about what I've been up to over the past few years. My background is CAD/CAM CAE. Came to the field of sustainable product design and development about a year or so ago, and have invested a great deal of time looking at what's happening in this area, in large part because I happen to believe, as many of you here do, that the products that we design and the way that we design needs to change and needs to look at, thank you very much, Ken, needs to look at the impact that we're having on the environment, on society, and of course, very important as well, on the economy, on our financial bottom line. So, to the point that Dave made moments ago, the way that you frame the issue of sustainability, especially in the manufacturing sector, it's critical, I believe, to talk to. As passionate as many of us are, it's critical to talk to the economic factors, especially at the board level, especially at the the executive level. So with a study that I recently conducted, we tried to look at how sustainability and sustainable practices could impact the business of all of these various manufacturers. And the thing that many of you have already learned and know is that there are some very important side effects of embracing sustainability and helping the environment. The side effect is that, in fact, you do fuel innovation, to Terry's point earlier, you are able to drive revenue growth, and you're able to the point that we've all been talking about today, you are able to reduce risk. So, that said, let's see, need my glasses? So I can just go page down. Okay, so again, why is it important today? And I think that, again, to frame it with today's issues, we're looking at rising energy costs and availability, efficient use of resources, availability of access to and price volatility of critical materials, the fact that there are potential risks associated with industrial and consumer waste. All of these things are reasons to start thinking more seriously about sustainability today. We've thought about it in the past, I think, more from the standpoint of let's develop eco-friendly products because it's the right thing to do. It's important for a lot of other reasons today. So if we don't get to any other slides today, this is the one that I wanted to put up for you. We surveyed and spoke with over 100 organizations globally. In doing so, what we learned and what was revealed was that those companies and those organizations that are actively engaged in supporting sustainability, and I'm calling them the sustainability champions, as compared to those who are really just getting started, and we're looking primarily at price performance and addressing compliance requirements, there's a huge gap, and that's an opportunity. But if you look at this, what I'm saying is that in terms of revenue growth, for example, the sustainability champions experienced moderate to significant revenue growth 70% of the time as compared to the early stage embracers, if you will, at only 23%. So you're looking at 2 and 3 times across many of these categories for those organizations that have actively engaged in sustainability practices. I'll come back to this chart, but I want to show you where those distinctions came in. So what this shows, and forgive me for the cutoff on some of the wording, but if you look at the big bar, this is where most folks are today. This is price performance. We asked the community, in which of the following best describes the extent to which sustainability is taken into account during your product development process currently. And nearly 50% indicated that they were either price performance is the primary focus with little or no emphasis on environmental impact, or price performance and some environmental or social impacts are taken into account. That's a pretty large percentage. What that tells us is that there are still many folks that are in the early stage of adoption. That said, those to the right of the big blue bar, which represents roughly 30 to 35%, those folks are actively engaged in embracing sustainability. At the far right, price performance is consistently evaluated against specific sustainability criteria, and sustainability metrics and reporting are in place. That's at the far, that's the true champions, if you will. At the other levels, you have some reporting in place, you have some sustainability metrics in place. The reason that I share this with you is that the way that we reported on, and I'll go back to this for just a moment. When you look at this, the sustainability champions would be the folks that were to the right of the big bar, any one of those three categories, and to the left would be the early stage adopters. So we have a community that's evolving. Now, mind you, again, this is in the manufacturing sector, and these are generally, the population that we surveyed, primarily engineers and designers, but it did also represent VPs and executives. But it gives you a sense of at least what our study revealed. This gets into some specifics, which I won't go into completely, but again, here's the early stage. You can see where their numbers are reflected. You'll see where the significant improvement was reported and moderate improvement across these key performance metrics. When you shift to the top performers, you see that there's a significant difference here as well. And I think the areas that I was most interested in calling out were product innovation, revenue growth, especially over the course of the past year. And you see the expected improvements in environmental footprint and energy use. But product safety was significantly impacted too, according to those that we spoke to. And we spoke to companies like SC Johnson. We spoke to companies like smaller design firms, larger companies. It was quite a range of different organizations. So again, some of the questions that we asked, I'll just go through a little bit of this. What's really driving folks? What we saw was that they said they were doing this to satisfy demand for eco-friendly products, to promote innovation, and to reduce product costs and improve competitive positioning. But what I found interesting is that really what's at the top of their list, when you ask them what's really important, it's product innovation. It's not necessarily eco-friendly products. And so that's another topic I think that's worth addressing and having conversations about. You don't have to be in the business of developing green products or eco-friendly products to benefit from sustainability practices. Sustainability practices can, in fact, help address your goals connected with increasing product innovation, as well as addressing compliance. Compliance, in fact, since it falls so high on the list for the general population, I think that also raises an issue. You have to have your compliance concerns addressed before you can get to that next level. So I put these up here because this helps us position what the priorities are for the general population. And I will tell you, for the sustainability champions, environmental compliance is much lower on the list, as you would imagine. They've already conquered that. So when you get into what are some of the particular goals and objectives, we learn that the ability to identify and use more eco-friendly materials, my apologies, the ability to design products with reuse and recycling in mind, to measure and reduce the carbon footprint, that's third on the list, that's not at the top of the list, to reduce or eliminate unnecessary packaging, to identify and reduce levels of toxicity, and to reduce waste, and so on. You can see the order in which these were rated. I found it interesting that eco-friendly materials was at the top, and yet, again, for the sustainability champions, their top goal and objective was to design products with reuse and recycling in mind. They're more focused on the design process itself. Here's another. What are your strategies? What strategies are being used? For the general population, they're still focused on leveraging lean design strategies, fewer parts, less material, eco-efficiency kinds of initiatives. Whereas with these sustainability champions, we see applying design for sustainability and embracing life cycle thinking higher up on the list. So there's opportunities for improvement. Finally, what were the challenges, and what are the challenges that we face moving forward? Generally speaking, companies reported that green sustainability initiatives are viewed as nice to have, but costly to implement. And that's an important point, because it means that we still have a challenge in front of us to communicate and help folks understand that it doesn't have to be costly. Sustainable Minds is not a costly product. To assist you, you can get started. There are ways today with all of the major CAD companies to get started on the path to sustainability at a very affordable price point. I'll just leave it at that. So it doesn't have to be costly in terms of embracing tools. And more importantly, it isn't just a nice to have anymore because of the factors that we shared in the very beginning. So there's still, I believe, some education that has to go on, but we have come a long way in the last 2 to 3 years with the large companies, but it has to filter down. So I still think we have some education and awareness to work on. Again, in terms of the study itself, these were some of the sectors that were included. It's really broad: industrial equipment, aerospace and defense, high tech and electronics. It's really across the board. Regions of the world wasn't just North America. We also did have a fair amount of participation from Asia Pacific and Europe, as well as Australia and New Zealand, and other countries, as noted. I think I would close just, there's 2 key points. Really, sustainability is about much more than going green to create eco-friendly products. By applying sustainable thinking, you are going to be able to experience significant beneficial side effects. Lower energy costs, as we mentioned, improved energy efficiency, less waste, and reduced risk, both from an environmental perspective and from a business perspective. And I might add, we're not focused on it here, but the third leg of the triple bottom line, you also see benefits in that area too. We're not focusing on that because really executives, frankly, are, again, to Dave's point, often more concerned about the financial bottom line right now. So that's the language we speak. And I think this is probably a nice way to leave the discussion on sustainability overall. This quote and forgive me for not citing it, it became, I believe, and it's from a Green Biz report, but I will, for anyone who's interested, I will get the actual source. But I like what it says in the future of sustainability in a resource-constrained, hungry, transparent, winner-take-all world. What we're used to calling responsibility and seeing as a luxury will be akin to table stakes in tomorrow's game, a competence necessary to enter the arena of human exchange. If you can't demonstrate, at the very least, you're not harming people, nature, communities, society, or tomorrow's generations, forget about vanquishing your rivals. You probably won't have a seat at the table. And I think that most folks in this right here would agree with that. That's where I think I'd like to leave it. So if anyone has questions, I'm happy to address them, and we'll leave it there.
Thank you, Amy.
Yes, Chris?
I have the feeling sometimes that sustainability is a bit where quality was 20 years ago.
Exactly. It is, yeah.
20 years ago, there was companies, actually it's still true today, there was companies that believed in quality.
Oh, okay.
There was companies that started doing quality because otherwise they wouldn't get to certain clients, or it was a regulatory requirement or whatever.
Right.
And there was companies that were just not there yet. And the feeling that with sustainability, I mean, some companies are in there because they believe in it, and they must be on the, whatever it is, right-hand side of your diagram.
Right,
and some of them are there because it's good for their image, or they start to feel the pressure from the market or whatever. And I wanted to know if you had surveyed or asked that question on deep motivation to your surveyed companies.
What was your motivation? I can't even hear myself talk. Did we ask what was your motivation for embracing sustainability? We asked something different. We asked, why is it of interest, not what motivated you? But that's a really good question, and maybe in a follow-on we should. But, you know, at the end of the day, what I've come to is it doesn't, at this point, matter why. It doesn't matter if we embrace sustainability because we're trying to reduce carbon footprint. I don't even mention carbon footprint, barely mention it. The fact is there are some tangible benefits to embracing it. But I like what you're asking. I think it will appeal to a certain segment of the population. Others will say, we have to do it. Many are still, of the folks that we spoke to, many are still saying, you know, I'm not even sure what you mean when you say sustainability, and they're still thinking it's, you know, it's like organic. It costs too much. I'd like it, but I can't. And, you know, the sustainability champions, or those that are already on board, they're hopefully showing us that there are some key benefits connected with it.
And that
anyway.
they truly believe in it.
Okay.
That they are true believers.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Well, thank you. Do we have any other questions? Or
Other questions?
anybody that would like to can talk afterwards too.
Amy, thank you very much. Come on, everybody. You know the routine.